Ground Control to Major Tom Collins? Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. Got another cocktail video coming at you today. Today we're going to do what is, I believe, the oldest cocktail we've ever done on the show, which is the Tom Collins. Dave Wondrich's book Imbibe talks about the Tom Collins a little bit and sort of tries to hash out the history of the cocktail. As with a lot of older cocktails, the history is a little bit murky. But basically, the Tom Collins comes from the punches. So punches were kind of what came before cocktails. Late 1700s, early 1800s, you'd have bars or you'd have parties, and they would put a bunch of ingredients in a bowl. Sometimes it was chilled, sometimes they were hot punches, and this specifically comes from the gin punch. So what they would do, in what was originally called was a John Collins, and it was just basically a gin punch sized down to a single cocktail. The first appearance of the Tom Collins is in the early 1870s. The difference between the John Collins and the Tom Collins is the previous cocktail, the John Collins, had been made with Holland-style rum, and the Tom Collins had been made with Old Tom rum. The difference there is Old Tom rum is a little sweeter. I wouldn't go so far as to call it sweet particularly, but it is sweeter than like a London Dry. And has a little bit richer flavor, which is why it's favored in a lot of cocktails. So now we know a little bit about the cocktail. Let's go ahead and put one together. And we're magically back with ingredients. So as I said before, we're going to use an Old Tom gin here. Old Tom gins are not as plentiful as your London Dries. Your London Dries, you're going to have your Beefeaters, your Bombay Sapphires, your Tanquerays. Old Toms, you're going to have a little bit less of a selection. I think Ransom has one. I prefer Hayman's myself. So this cocktail is going to be traditionally made in the glass. If I'm honest, when I make this cocktail for myself, which I do, I think this is a really good, nice, summery cocktail. We're sort of grasping onto the edges of summer. I usually shake it because I think you get a little bit better result, but I want to make this kind of the traditional way, so we're going to make this right in the glass. We're going to start off. Oh, and also the proportions that I'm using here, I use an ounce of lemon juice and half an ounce of the simple syrup. A lot of people have the equal parts. They'll have 1 ounce, or something like that. This is really to taste. I like my cocktail to be a little bit more sour and a little less sweet. So we're going to go ahead and toss in our 1 ounce of lemon juice, fresh squeezed. Toss in, and we'll go for like 3/4 of an ounce. And then, finally, you're going to toss in 2 ounces of our Old Tom gin. Now, we've got our ingredients in there. I'm going to give it just a bit of a stir, just with those. Make sure we get this well incorporated. And then we're just going to take our club soda. And we're just going to top off with that. And again, with when you're using a club soda, you want to stir because you want to get your stuff, your ingredients incorporated, but you also don't want to get all the fizz out of there. Next, our garnish. And we're going to garnish obviously with a lemon. Now, whether or not you go with a lemon wheel or a wedge, I think is kind of just up to your personal preference. I think that a Tom Collins should have a wedge, so that's my preference. So we're going to cut our wedge. Put that just right on the edge of the glass right there. And there you have classic Tom Collins. It's just such a really good cocktail. It's very summery. You got the botanicals from the gin working with the lemons. You could do this with lime too if you wanted. It's going to be a little more sour, and I think that could be a good cocktail. but also I think in this case the lemon juice is working much better with the botanicals, the gin. The one thing you have to hone in on this for your personal taste is really your simple. I use 3/4 of an ounce here. Normally I'd use 1/2 ounce, but I think the 3/4 is a little closer to the classical recipe. It's really good, but I think it didn't quite need that much, so I think 1/2 ounce is probably just about right for this. So, in the waning days of summer, there you have Tom Collins, which is another great cocktail to sit by the pool or just around the table. All right, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tell me how you make your Tom Collins. And everybody, have a good drink and have a good day.